beef on toast, we need milk, flour, butter. We're going to add some spices. We need salt, black or white pepper, a little onion powder, a little bit of cayenne. We'll need the chipped beef. This is one brand. There are a few others out there. Looks like this in the package. And then also we'll need some bread to serve it on. Plain white bread is great with this, but you can get a little fancier with Texas toast, or even put it over biscuits or brioche bread. The equipment we'll need to gather for our chipped beef on toast recipe is a large skillet. We'll either need a silicone whisk or a wooden spoon, some dry measuring cups for the flour, measuring spoons for the seasoning, straight edge spatula to level things off, either a large liquid measuring cup, or if you have a smaller one, you'll just need to use it multiple times. I have a custard cup to hold the spices after they're measured, a small cutting board and knife for the beef, a rubber scraper, and a small bowl to hold the cut beef while we wait to add it to the recipe. So to get our chipped beef on toast started, I've placed my butter in my skillet, and I'm going to put that on a medium heat. And you notice I've cut it into smaller pats, and that's just to help it melt a little bit faster so that the entire recipe is done a little more quickly. So once our butter is all melted, we'll move on to the next step. Now that our butter is completely melted and it's a little bubbly, we're ready to mix in our flour and our seasonings. So I'm just going to take my flour, all of those seasonings, and we're going to whisk those into the butter and create that roux. Remember, we just need to cook this for a minute or two to cook that raw starch or that raw floury taste out. And the color you see is mostly from the cayenne. Added a 1/4 teaspoon. You could add another 1/2 teaspoon. You could even sprinkle a little bit on the finished dish if you like it with a little more spice than other members of the family or whoever you're serving. So we want to get our roux to bubble a little. Try to get it all in good contact with the heat. And then we'll add our milk and begin to thicken it. Just keep it moving so it doesn't burn. And this is still over just a medium heat. Alright, so now we're going to add some milk. Scrape our container clean, our measuring cup. And then we're going to whisk this constantly. And again, if you don't have a silicone whisk, do not use a wire whisk in a nonstick pan. You'd simply use a wooden spoon. Should not use metal spoons in nonstick pans either. Wooden spoon is a great investment for your kitchen if you don't already have one, because it's so versatile. We're going to stir this constantly. It's going to take a few minutes. We're going to bring it to a just a slight boil, and then we'll be ready to add the beef. Now, as our sauce starts to thicken, you'll begin to feel it as you stir through. You can feel that viscosity change, that thickness coming on, where it's not just thin as milk anymore. As you move through the sauce, you can also feel it on the bottom of the pan. And that's what you're trying to make sure you stir back up so that it doesn't burn or scorch to the pan. Stop for a second here. Sometimes you have to stop stirring just briefly to see if you have those bubbles for a boil just yet. Not quite. So we're going to stir this a little bit longer. And the back of a wooden spoon would actually give you a really good idea as to how your sauce is coming along. So you can see how that runs back together, kind of. Just set that aside and let it get a little bit thicker. So you can see that's already a little bit thicker. Now we're getting some bubbles. Can you see those in the sauce? So I'm going to turn this down to a medium-low. And I'm going to add my beef. And then I'm going to stir it to break it up. And I'm going to warm it through. So it's going to have to cook in here for a couple of minutes so the beef gets all warm completely through. If your sauce were to get too thick on you, you could simply add a splash or two of milk. Just add a little at a time to thin it back out. So this comes together really quickly. It's a pretty easy dinner. Serve it with a vegetable on the side. I heard that some people like it for breakfast. Turn this down a little more. Switch to the wooden spoon. And again, we just need to cook this until the beef is heated through, and then it'll be ready to serve. It's also a very inexpensive meal. Flour's not expensive. A loaf of white bread's about $1. Each package of beef is less than $1. And really, if you needed to save a little bit of money, you could use 4 packages instead of 6. So it just would have a little more sauce, higher sauce to gravy to beef ratio. So there we go, our beef should be all heated through. Now we just need to toast some bread and we'll be ready to go. Here's our chick beef on toast, a quick, economical meal.